Hey, everybody. Grant Miller here, Miami Community News. It's a great day. The project you guys, Stephen and Jose, got me. I was going to say Joe, but it's Joe, Jose.
You can call me Joe or
anything.
Yeah,
just
fine.
not late for dinner. Okay, so the project is, to me, what you're building in South Dade is a game changer. You know, I'm born and raised in South Dade. Now, I don't count it South Dade, but everybody in North thinks Kendall Drive is South Dade. But what you guys are doing in South Dade is going to be incredible. Here's my philosophy on South Dade. We don't need a rail. We need to take that $1 billion that they're going to spend for rail and build infrastructure in South Dade. We need jobs in South Dade. That's what we need. Before, you're not from down here, but he understands when it was the Air Force Base, people weren't traveling up here because there were jobs down there. As soon as Hurricane Andrew knocked the base out and made a reserve base, there's not jobs. They have to travel. And you guys are going to solve that. So why don't you talk about yourself, where you're from, where you're born? Right, so you're born at St. Francis Hospital.
Yeah, I was born at St. Francis Hospital. I want to correct something you said. It's true, partially true. I was born here in 1952 at Hertz, but at St. Francis Hospital, which no longer exists. It's
What's there now?
Development called Aqua.
Right.
Aqua developed. Right. But I came back here in the late 70s, so it's almost like I never left. Okay, I've watched the skyline.
You've been here
change.
since the 70s.
Yes.
And you're a Miamian. You're
yes.
okay.
So I've watched tremendous changes in the city. I've watched the skyline change. I've watched the demographic change. And when I was in the 70s, it was mostly Anglos with a slight Hispanic Cuban community, and it's changed to multinational South and Central Americans. New Yorkers are now coming down here post-pandemic. Californians are coming down here. And the reason I bring all this to your attention is it's changed the whole dynamic of the city. As you mentioned before, the infrastructure has changed. The infrastructure is underserved. There are parts of Miami I try and relate it to. There are epicenters in Miami. I call them epicenters. What do I mean by epicenters? Kendall Drive. It's its own city. It's hard to leave Kendall Drive because if you leave to go to downtown Miami, you're in your car 2 hours a day. If you go to Doral, which is now a city, if you leave Doral and try and go to downtown Miami, you're in your car 2 hours a day.
I have to stand correct. You don't need to leave Doral. They have built a great community. Self-sustaining. They built everything there. Yeah. If you work in Doral and live in Doral, you don't need a car. They built the rail, not the rails. They brought the trolleys. They got freebies. They're doing a great job. So continue.
So as you mentioned, you don't have to leave Doral. It's a city. So what's transpired and what sparked my interest and piqued my interest, and also my good friend Jose Hevia's interest, are you got tens of thousands of homes have been built down in South Dade. Half the population of Miami lives in South Dade, but there's no critical mass of employment based there for these people. So they spend a good time, hours in a car to go to Brickell Avenue, to go to Kendall Drive, to go to Edgewater, and centers of employment where they can work. So their quality of life has diminished. So I embarked on a journey. I came up with the idea that this was a place that needed industrial, logistic warehouse. We'll get into that in a minute, distribution centers. And I started doing my research. I started engaging my professionals, be it architects, be it engineers, attorneys, land use and zoning attorneys. And in that process, it's a long story that I'll abbreviate. I found out one of my engineers refused to give me some information. I said, why? He said, well, I'm conflicted. I said, why are you conflicted? He said, well, I can't really tell you, which he inferred to me. When Desire inferred to me that someone else is doing the same thing I was doing. Well, lo and behold, it happened to be my good friend, Jose Hevia, but he recognized the need as well as I recognize the need. There's a lack of industrial space. There's a lack of industrial land in Dade County. There's a tremendous need. Let's talk in general first. A tremendous need for warehouses. Contrary to what the county alleges, there is not a surplus. There is not 5 acres of usable, developable land that's contiguous or of size of consequence in Dade County. And that sparked Jose's interest and my interest. One, you've got thousands of residents in South Dade that need a place to go work, and their quality of life, as I said before, is diminished. Two, you can't find land anywhere else to do this. You have to create a critical mass. You have to create a dynamic of boxes. As I met Jose years ago because I developed 4 industrial parks in Dade County in the last 20 years. One of them was called Pan American North. And Jose brought me Cisco, the food distributor, SYSCO. And that anchored my park. And when you bring a box like that, or bring a user like that, I call them feeder companies. It creates a synergy where other companies come. So we need more than just 30, 40 acres. You need hundreds of acres. You need 1,000. You need
to build a community.
You need to build a community, a business community.
Is there anywhere like that in Dade, Broward, or Palm Beach?
Okay, so has it happened? Yes. Beacon Lakes is a prime example of that, but those are built out already. There's no opportunities to recreate something like that.
Hey, Jose, get closer to the mic. Introduce. Where are you from first?
I was born in Cuba, moved to the United States in 1961.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your whole family came together?
The whole family came together. Yeah.
You know, I want to clarify a story that's interesting before you go on. You know, in the 60s, when the Cubans came, nobody wanted the Cubans to come. They changed Miami. When the next nationality came in, nobody wanted to come in. They changed Miami. Every immigrant that comes into Miami makes Miami a better place. Miami, there's no better place in the world. As you're both from Miami, you go up and down Bird Road. There's 20 different steakhouses. They're all different nationalities. Nowhere in the world. So by when you came in 61 and you went to Palmetto in 73, you might have been one Cuban, two Cubans.
There was two.
Right? There was, right? And who was the other one? Do you remember?
Jeffrey Altieri.
And by the way, Ron McGill, you know, he's Cuban.
I did not know.
Yes.
I did not know.
So, but he was there after you.
That's very funny.
But the point of it is how difficult it was for your parents and for
Sure.
you to grow up in that area.
Yeah, but
Let's
Miami.
Let's talk about your project.
Yep.
What's the name of it? And go in a little detail.
We like to call it SDLTD, which is an acronym for South Dade Logistics and Technology District. And Grant, it's located just south of the Turnpike. On the east side is Southwest 107th, Southwest 268th to the south, and Southwest 122nd to the west.
What exit is that on the Turnpike?
That's exit 9A. 9A, and I think it's one of the only undeveloped exits off of the Turnpike.
I wonder what the government center is. That's 7.
I don't know exactly where that is,
but it is a prime area.
100%.
Because before you go into detail, unless we expand the airport, the Tamiami Airport, or whatever, Miami airports, make it bigger, they need to be close to expressway to get to Miami International Airport, to get across Dade County. That's my thought process on that.
Yep. So, Brad, I wanted to expand a little bit upon what Steve said and talk a little bit about the size of the industrial market and why demand is so important. So when you look, if you said, Hevia, tell me, what's the size of the industrial market today? Well, the size of the market is 252 million square feet. Miami-Dade County came up with a calculation in 2020 where they estimated the amount of developable industrial acreage inside of the UDB is 2,660 acres. Now, CBRE, which is, I think, the largest, most renowned real estate company, I think it's global at this point.
Which one?
Right?
Yes, yes.
CBRE.
Right.
So CBRE has an incredible analytical arm, and I think other JLL, this is all public information. So when you analyze the acreage, Grant, what you find is that land that's viable for industrial, it has to meet certain criteria. It can't be less than 10 acres. You have to be proximate to infrastructure. And so what they did is they weaned that down. So of the 2,660 acres, 1,330 acres of those really don't make any sense because that's less than 10 acres. So what you end up with from the county's own study is 1,330 acres. So far, so good?
Right.
Right. Now, there's something called
Because I went to Palmetto, you talk a little slower. Is that what it is?
No, sorry. So then when you look at FAR, and I'm sorry I'm getting a little technical, but floor area ratio is very important.
Every time you talk about initials, spell it out.
Floor area ratios, FAR. And what it is the amount of area that a building occupies on an amount of land. So, for example, if you had a building that was, let's say, 10 acres in size, occupying 20 acres, the FAR would be 50. It's occupying half the land, 50% of the land. So when you look at industrial and you do take a conservative number today, let's say it's 37.5. So when you take the county's number of 1,300 acres. You take it and you apply the 37.5%, Grant, you end up with 21.5 million square feet. So said another way, you said, Hevia, how much, if we took the entire UDB, how much industrial could we build inside the UDB today? The answer would be 21.5 million square feet, which is 9% of the size of the market. The market's 225 million square feet. Here's the crazy thing. Now, the next thing you're going to say is, that's great, Grant, Jose, but you're going to say,
Grant, Jose.
You're going to say, Hevia, what is the annual absorption of industrial? So in other words, how fast is that 21.5 million square feet going to be absorbed? And the answer is, Grant, when you look at the last 30 years or so, the trend is going up, and it's about 3 million square feet a year.
In South Florida?
In Miami-Dade and Dade County. I can give you the stats if you want, including West Palm. I don't think it's relevant, but no. Broward County, West Palm Beach, but focusing only on Miami-Dade County. So when you take 21.5 million square feet and you divide it by 3, that means that in 7 years, there will be no more land inside the UDB.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to blow your mind. The last 12 months of absorption in the market have been 6.5 million square feet, Grant. So I'm not suggesting that that trend will continue, but if you were to divide the 21.5 million square feet of max out industrial and you divide that by 6, you're going to burn through that in less than 4 years. So
that's because all these people are moving down here. Am I correct?
That's because the market is incredibly vibrant, and the amount of available land that we really, really have inside the UDB is 1,300 acres.
Yeah. So people don't realize when you hear the boundaries, they think it's west. Everybody thinks it's west next to the Everglades. The boundaries you're talking about is right off the turnpike. That's east of the turnpike.
In our case, that's an excellent question. The north boundary of our property is the south edge of what is today the UDB in that particular area. And you're right, it is further east.
Yeah, most people think
of the west
save the Everglades.
And they think we have nothing to do with the Everglades.
Correct. But this is how the drawing is. We're going to save the Everglades. We're going to save this. How many jobs in a 3-year period you think there'd be? And do you have people that are anchors that are thinking of coming in already?
Before you go into jobs, let's go back to what you touched on before. I mean, there's this is a natural location for.
It's unbelievable. I didn't know exactly where it was. I thought, the way it was drawn to me, the antis, it's west. It's going to ruin the Everglades.
Nonsense.
It's
it's like the turnpike exit.
And that's the challenge people have. We need to be able to get whatever they're doing on the road right away.
That's exactly right. And why is the growth at such a rampant pace? Because post-pandemic, the industrial components have changed. There's a need for logistics space. There's a need for distribution space. My wife, Publix, Instacart, Amazon Prime, they don't go to the stores anymore. A lot of people are afraid of illness. A lot of people just are lazy. A lot of people traffic congestion. They don't want to spend an hour going back and forth to the store. They can order, get on their computer and order. So now we need fulfillment centers. We need distribution centers. We need big boxes. We need the logistics space to service these needs. Miami's always been a sleeper. We're not a follower. We follow New York. We follow Chicago. We follow LA. These places have these big, large logistic parks, these distribution fulfillment centers. Our time is now. These users want a presence here, and we have to satisfy
in
them.
Another county, give me whatever county. Can you describe one like in Palm Beach or Orlando that has a distribution center?
You mean
a sample like what you guys are going to build?
Oh, I can't name it, but they certainly have it.
They do have it.
You roughly cut it the same thing as the population, Grant. You would cut it if Miami's 3 million square feet, Dade would be 2, and West Palm Beach would be 1. It's roughly an order of magnitude that's similar.
We have a young lady who works for us. She lives off 184th and 102nd. She takes an hour to get to work. She's been here 25 years. Now, 20 years ago, it would take her 20 minutes. Now it takes her an hour. Hour in and an hour out.
Horrible.
Right. If she found the job, probably higher pay and a nicer boss, she might take it. But she likes sitting next to me and be miserable. But I'm making the point the traffic's tough. And people want good paying jobs in their neighborhood.
We are going to generate your earlier question, then I'm going to turn it back to Steve. Sorry, Steve. We are going to generate, when we're done, 11,750 permanent jobs.
And that's how long will that take after you build?
It's after absorption. We're calculating anywhere between 6 and 8 years for total build out. And the total, if I may describe the total acreage is, which is gross acreage, is 792 acres, and the total build out is 9.2 million square feet of light industrial, logistics, and warehouse space, 120,000 square feet of commercial supportive uses, and a 150 room hotel.
Really?
Yes.
And that area is dying for a hotel.
Like
You go,
Steve?
there's 2 hotels next to Cutler Bay City Hall. And Cutler Bay City Hall is going to be moving
Right.
in the next year or two. And they're not low-end hotels, Motel 6. So what kind of hotel? Do you know what yet
These
is?
are limited service hotels. So if you
That's
look
right.
at any major industrial park of
Yeah.
size and consequence, and I'm just going to relate to South Florida right now, you'll see at the entry there's a hotel, and there are retail spaces and amenity to the users of the park. So, for instance, we'll have some fast food restaurants. We'll have a hotel. We'll have a bank branch for people at the end of the work week to go cash their check and get right on the turnpike and go home. That's the answer.
You know, like at Tamiami Airport, I call it Tamiami, whatever you want to call it, the older.
I know where
There's a little hotel out there. I'm wondering why. Because there's a small industrial area that people use. So again, over a 6-year period, we're going to have 15,000 new jobs, not low paying.
11,750.
Yeah, and they're going to be high paying, low paying, anything.
A combination.
It's important. It's important.
Absolutely.
Next question they're going to ask you: how much green space is there going to be?
But we are going to be providing a minimum of 15% on the net acreage.
Is there going to be a basketball court
Net
there?
acreage. No.
A little football field?
No.
No, soccer field? Lacrosse?
Just so that you know, our master plan on the net acreage is probably closer to 22%, but code requires 15. And it's important. It's on the net, not the gross.
Right. How will this help South Dade? I know it's going to help. How it's going to help.
My
South
goodness
Dade.
Okay, so first, and then Jose.
Yeah, no,
pipe in.
please.
Why did people move to South Dade? A lot of the masses of people, they moved down there for affordability.
Correct.
Because it got cost prohibitive in urban downtown Miami and the suburban areas that are contiguous to it. So they moved down there for affordability. You got Lennar, D.R. Horton, Pulte Homes, GL Homes. They're all building down there. If you ride down there, you see rooftops under construction. It's incredible what you see. And they moved down there. So there's a need. I'm being redundant now, but there's a need. We need an employment base to serve all these people. And they can't sit in a car. Just gas expenses, time. Time is money.
Homestead Baptist Hospital years ago decided to build a hospital down there, and they've been taking a beating. You know, they lost a lot of money because when it was built and everything, now all these new homes, Baptist is an important part of a Homestead Hospital. It's a very important part of that community. And when you have a hospital that's 2 exits away, I think, from where you're building, of the 11th, I think it's huge. I think that it's going to be such an addition for the area.
I serve on the board of Baptist Hospital, so let me speak.
Wait,
directly
on
to
the
that
board, on the big boys?
point. I am the chairman of the Neuroscience Institute of Baptist. I'm on the operating board. I have a seat on the operating board of Baptist.
I used to
So-
love writing bad stories about Baptist.
I opened my big mouth.
No, I did. I
But
just
my
want you to
point
know.
is they're thriving down there now.
Now,
Okay.
right.
Now it's changed dramatically.
Absolutely. Bill Duquette, who's now at South Miami, he did an unbelievable job.
Yes.
He built a community within the community, correct?
Yes.
And so Bill Duquette, by the way, grew up right near we did. So
Name rings a bell.
yeah, he's the CEO of South Miami. So Baptist is booming now.
It's booming.
And another 10,000 people, like people travel all the way up here. They're going to different hospitals and they go back and forth. So I think it's important that people know that Baptist Hospital is there for a reason. So those 11,000 people, most of those people over the 6-year period are going to be locals. And you can't guarantee it, but you're going to try because they're going to move there or they're going to be working nearby.
Or they exist already.
Right. Transportation. I think it's going to help traffic pattern. What do you guys think?
Well, so as Steve mentioned earlier, 50% of the Dade County population lives to the south. But we know, Steve and I know, that 72% of our local workforce in the south commute north. And as you mentioned, it's an hour commute, and it's devastating it's devastating to your life to have to be in a car for an hour each way. So we're hoping to tap our 11,750 local as much as possible, which is going to change their quality of life. Furthermore, it's going to take those cars and shorten the amount of time they're on the road, burning less fuel and spending less time. So
what kind of business do you think you're going to attract?
Let me tell you, first of all, Jose and I aren't brilliant people. We work hard. And we like to think that we follow the markets and we educate ourselves and we read and we have an awareness of people and public needs. Amazon, Costco, Walmart, those are the brilliant people. They spot the locations where they need to be. And
20 years ago, before anybody.
Exactly right. Currently, Amazon's building a facility down there already.
In Homestead.
So is FedEx. Yes, they told us. That's what piqued my interest. They're coming. They want to be there. And you're going to see big logistics boxes like that. Other big household names are going to come.
Explain what logistics mean. What do you mean by that?
So when you think of e-commerce, so for example, if you were to go, Steve was mentioning his wife, and the pandemic really changed the way consumers, for good, I believe, the way consumers spend. So you go online, you order a pair of boxing gloves, for example. Well, those boxing gloves have to go from the manufacturer. They have to go from the manufacturer to a store, then to a warehouse, from a warehouse to a last mile facility, get it sorted, and then distributed to delivered to your home. So. Right. These buildings where before you had the plan, the old model was less inventory, and now it's more inventory because you're trying to solve for an e-commerce economy. So you're talking about distribution buildings, you're talking about warehouses that store product. Then you have to sort it by zip code. Then it gets delivered to another building where it actually gets into vans and gets delivered into the
home. So it could
be. So it's a chain of it's a chain
A to Z.
Right. But you're still going to have freight forwarders. You're still going to have the normal. So the answer, the short answer to the question is logistics is moving goods from point A to point B, and you have to store it at some point in time. You can't go from point A to point B without storing it in the spot. That's what logistics is.
We all think. We use Amazon, who's probably a brilliant guy, even though he went,
Bezos, even though he went to Palmetto.
You knew that, right?
I did.
Yeah. Is by the time you start building, by the time you finish, there's going to be another company competing against them. Competition's good. Mm-hmm. And the distribution centers are exciting. The cities of Cutler Bay, Homestead, are they welcoming you? Have you spoke to them? What do the cities say?
So we went before the community council, which the community council is a representation of the community that you're in. And that's very unusual.
Because Cutler Bay, you're in between Cutler Bay and Homestead.
Precisely. We're in it's called District 15.
And who's the chairman?
I don't remember.
Wilbur Bell?
I don't remember who the chairman was. We went before them on August 23rd, and we had a unanimous vote, which is extremely
rare.
Extremely rare. So that alone is a statement of how strong the community feels about us. And we felt very good about that.
Let's take it the next step. We went before the Planning Advisory Board, and we went, what did we win? 8-3, 9-3.
That was an 8-10 vote. Amazing. Yeah.
And then we went before the County Commission, and we won by a supermajority, 9-3.
Okay,
9-12.
We ran a story about the game changer. That's what I call it. I coached football, baseball for 40 years, so everything's related to a game. It's a game changer, but people that are on the outside saying it's going to ruin the environment, it's going to do this. Of course, the naysayers. There's an issue about drainage.
Uh-huh.
Now, I don't understand completely what they're telling me about the drainage, about this and about that.
Either one. Let Jose delve into this technically,
because he's in charge of the drainage.
I want to make a general statement that we are working tirelessly to answer all of South Water Management, Durham's issues, and we have the answers for these. And we don't want to talk on deaf ears because we have the answers. I'm going to let Jose be more specific.
And by the way, before you go, have you spoke to the Everglades people, Everglades Trust?
We've reached out to them. We've reached out to water keepers. Not yet.
Eric has not met with you?
Not yet.
He's with the foundation.
Correct.
Okay. He lives in Palmetto Bay. Just keep that in mind.
Correct.
All right. So why don't you talk about the environment?
So the best way to describe that, Grant, is think of a tennis court for just a minute, which is a flat surface, a clay court, because the soil conditions in the property today are marl, which is clay. Then what I want you to do is think of what happens on a clay court when it rains, right? It doesn't necessarily get absorbed into the property. So what happens at the property today on all 792 acres is it rains, when it rains, the water sheet drains into a system of agricultural ditches, which exist today. And also
that's why C100 canals were built in the 60s.
Precisely. And so then what happens, that water then flows in outfall structures into the C102 canal, which bisects our property. Once it gets into the C102 canal, it goes directly into the bay. So we also are bisected by roadways, Grant. And today the roadways, normally when you see a road, you'll see that you have curb and gutter, water falls into the gutter, it goes into drains. Today it sheet drains into those ditches. So what you have today is an untreated stormwater that goes into ditches, that goes into the C-102, that goes into the bay. That's the way it works today. Today it's ag, it's 100%. So you have herbicides, you have fertilizers. And what happens with marl is that marl doesn't, as I said before, doesn't percolate that well. So unfortunately, the stormwater from the rain captures all of these elements and dumps it into the bay. There's another condition that occurs that I think it's important to mention, which is because, so today you have farmers that are to the west of us in the Redlands, et cetera, because the C-102 captures a bunch of farmland. We are low, South Florida is low. And so what happens is during the rainy season, the water table rises.
Correct.
What the Corps and South Florida Water Management do is they pulse, meaning they will open the salinity dam and the C-102 pulses into the bay. It's not a gradual discharge. It's a massive discharge. It occurs typically once a year right after the rainy season in order to bring the water table down. So the bay can't, so two things happen. The bay can't possibly absorb those nutrients, herbicides, all at once, so it messes things up terribly.
If people don't realize the fertilizing your yard and all this stuff goes sooner or later, it goes to the water table, goes to the ocean, goes to the bay.
In addition, the water consumption, the current water consumption from these tree farms is in the millions of gallons annually. Our developments are going to reduce it into the hundreds of thousands of gallons annually water consumption.
But I haven't told you what we're doing further to Steve's point. You ready? So what are we doing different? Why are we so special? Why do we think that we're actually enhancing and improving and protecting the bay? What we're going to do, Grant, is we are going to raise the property approximately 5 feet. 5 feet. So you got a 3.5, you're going to go to about an 8.5 approximate. Right. Yes. And by code, you must retain stormwater within your property lines. It's code. You can't do it any other way. And what's the requirement today is to design to a 20-year, 3-day storm event. Steve and I are designing to a 100-year, 3-day storm event. That means that if it rains tirelessly for 3 days and it only happens once every 100 years, we're going to retain 100% of the water on site.
On your property.
Correct.
Now,
then we're going to install a system by code, a system of French drains that percolate the water.
Okay, explain what a French drain is.
It is
I know what it is. Explain it.
It is a structure with a catch basin, and the water flows in there, and then you go into it has baffles on the inside which separates solids from the liquid, and then it flows into pipes that are perforated, that are installed inside of clean lime rock, which filters the water as it goes into the aquifer. It's simple, and it works by head pressure, which is
a lot of houses have that throughout the community.
Throughout Miami-Dade County. That's how we drain.
Right. Most people don't realize that when you say French drain, you get
understood.
Okay,
but the key thing is, Grant. Sorry to interrupt you, Grant.
You can interrupt me.
100% of the water, where we were talking what happens before, we're capturing it, and it is no longer going into the C-102 canal.
Despite
it's that simple. We are retaining the water. We're putting it and recharging the aquifer.
Correct.
What happens when
cleaning it
in a clean fashion? Furthermore, the roadways today they drain into the ditches. We are going to install the same system: curb, gutter, drains, French drains, percolation into the ground. So we're improving the roads, and we're improving the entire property, and we're eliminating our 792 acres from discharging into the 102, which discharges into Biscayne Bay.
And decreasing water consumption.
So to make
Steve's
it
right on
make
point.
it simple, you guys are on another level. I think.
Oh, I don't think so.
Jobs. Buy local, shop local. But you can't buy local, shop local. Have local jobs. That's the most important thing. You're talking, and most people in South Dade, that wicked word, jobs. Everybody wants to work.
Man, I can't stress to you enough the number of people that showed up to our hearings pleading with us to get the approvals to create jobs down there. I can't stress enough the number of phone calls that I get on a daily basis, pleading and wanting to know how Jose and I are doing and begging us to prevail.
Yeah, the big issue, the other big issue, I think, is where are these people? The people driving south are going to go to their job instead of driving downtown. Where are the big trucks going to be? They're going right onto the turnpike. People don't realize that. It's like Port of Miami. They built this thing. It goes underground, got the big trucks that way. So to me and to our viewers, they want to know about jobs and good companies coming in. That's the biggest issue. Now, your next step is you got approved by the community council. And then what happens?
Well, we got approved by the community council on the 23rd of August. Then we got approved, to Steve's point earlier, by the planning advisory board on the 25th. Then we got approved by the Board of County Commission for conveyance, and I'll explain what that is on September the 9th. Conveyance means that they approved that our application got transmitted to the state.
To move forward.
To the state. That actually happened. The county transmitted it to the state on the 22nd of September. By statute, it comes back on October the 22nd, which we received it. We're in the process of answering some of the questions that the state agencies had. And you're going to say, Hevia, what's your next steps after that? So we have to go before the Development Impact Committee.
And who runs that?
These are board appointed individuals. By
each board member gets to nominate somebody, correct?
Precisely.
But what is your webpage? Andres?
Andres,
can you write this down?
My goodness gracious. South Dade.
Bring Jobs South Dade?
Bring the Jobs South Dade. I apologize for
Okay.
that.
Can you run that across the bottom?
Thank you for that.
Okay. So you got the next step.
We go before the DIC on, I think it's going to be December the 8th. And then we get before the Planning Advisory Board once again. We think it's going to be the 13th.
Of December?
Yes. And then ultimately, the first week or so of January, we'll get in front of the Board of County Commission for adoption.
So, but when did you say the
first week or so of January?
Okay, so let's just say you get approved by January or February. Okay,
understood.
When would you break ground?
So we're fortunate to be working with a Fortune 50 company now. And Grant, you asked that question earlier, and it's going to take down 40 net acres. It's a 300,000 square foot building. I can't disclose who it is, but
No.
So we would be breaking ground on or about April for delivery sometime in June, July.
That's great.
Of 2023. Yeah, we're very excited.
The other question I have, not the public, the contractors, laborers. Are we going to try to get local?
100%.
Yes.
I mean, understand that you're not going to bring somebody from Broward, but you're going to try to find
100%.
There was a car dealership that built something in Palmetto Bay. Part of his agreement was he was going to hire Palmetto Bay air conditioned people.
100%.
So 100%, it's about job creation. We're going to attempt to hire people locally.
That's very important to me and to people in South Dade. Sometimes you hire a big company, but at least they can hire their subcontractors. Could be local people, because you want this to be a team effort, not your effort. You want the whole community to be behind it, cheering this on. Because the first year there's going to be a couple thousand people. Second year there's going to be another couple thousand higher. Correct.
Correct.
And then third or fourth year there's going to be another 4,000 or 5,000.
Correct.
So I'm very excited about it. I didn't know exactly where it was. I got a little confused, but it's more exciting because it's next to the turnpike. And to me, that's very important, because I drive up and down the turnpike and there's not a lot of freight trucks down there. But you guys are going to help it bring business up all over Dade County.
Absolutely.
So within 2 or 3 months, it looks like you could be approved. And
I
what
think
else?
so.
What is the people can they do to help you move it along? Should they call their county commissioner? Should they?
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to be making.
Should they call all the county commissioners, or should call the county commissioner, the two in the South Dade area?
And I appreciate you, Steve, and I appreciate you putting the website, our website. We're going to be adding some additional information to the website, which are going to give people directive. But absolutely, reaching out to our commissioners would be wonderful.
Absolutely, we urge their voices to be heard.
Great. Well, let's look at that camera right there, and thank you for attending. And you guys are the game changer. This is, you're coming to the rescue to save South Dade. Thank you very much. Have any questions? Go to their webpage. Everybody, have a great day.
Thank you.